Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to thank you for joining us. I'm going to give it about 2 minutes until we begin in kind of convenience factor for those that may have not been able to join us yet. So please bear with us. We'll probably start in about 2 minutes' time. I see we've had a few people join us. Just as an FYI, we're just giving it 2 more minutes until we begin our presentation in regards to the Opportunity Fund program. And then we will commence just to give some people some time to join us. Thank you. So I did say that we would start at 3 minutes past 7. Just as an introduction, my name is Claire Powell. I am the Education USA advisor responsible for the Opportunity Funds program. And this evening, what we're going to speak about is what the Opportunity Funds program is, who is Education USA, just as a reminder for anyone who may not know about Education USA. And then to speak about how one would prepare and submit an application for the Opportunity Funds program. So again, thank you for joining us this evening. To begin with, I think it's important to kind of understand the context of Education USA before diving into the larger piece of what the program, the Opportunity Funds program is. So just a little bit about Education USA. We are an advisory service program that is run as part of the US State Department under their Bureau for Educational and Cultural Affairs. And essentially it's an advisory service that looks to help international students navigate the process of applying to US tertiary institutions. So whether that be at a bachelor's, a master's, or a PhD level. The aim of Education USA is to provide accurate, current, and comprehensive. The premise behind it is to be as unbiased and to offer free information on US higher education. How we do it is through professional advisors who have, either with English materials, language materials, grants. In some countries, for instance, with the Opportunity Funds program, specifically, it's done through a grant here in South Africa in partnership with the US Embassy and the various Education USA advisors that are working out of the US Embassy and consulates in South Africa, as well as other partnerships with the likes of the American Corner and Global Youth Advisors, which I'll speak a little bit more about. Most Education USA advisors have first-hand experience of studying in the United States. So they have that ability to interact and speak with students with a level of professionalism and understanding. Where we do it, we have over 400 centers in over 170 countries worldwide. We tend to be either placed at US embassies or missions around the world, or through other host organizations, either the likes of universities or NGOs, depending on the countries and structures that there are. Why do we do it? So Education USA, being a program within the State Department, falling under educational and the Bureau for Educational and Cultural Affairs, and having that interaction in terms of being in the Public Affairs Office, it's there to foster mutual understanding between the US and the rest of the world. So in this case, it would be for mutual understanding between South Africa and the United States of America. So what we don't do, so we don't necessarily administer programs, and we don't do the work for the student, but we work with the student to make sure that we are helping them through the process of what can be quite cumbersome. We cannot guarantee admission or financial aid, as again, it's an advisory service, not so much a guaranteed program. We provide advice on programs and the process and the different components of the application and what's involved, and we help the students gain admission to universities, generally with financial aid, should they need it. We conduct workshops and review applications of chosen Education USA Opportunity Fund program participants, which is going to be the premise and the concentration of tonight's presentation. So where are Education USA centers located in South Africa? So the US mission, being the embassy and the consulates, each have an advisor or staff member that is responsible for the Education USA portfolio. So the embassy, the consulate generals in Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban each have an advisor or staff member there. We have various American spaces, so like the American Corner, which is one of our top spaces and partnerships with the Central Library in Cape Town, has an American Corner, which has an advisor there. The advisor from the consulate is there quite often to conduct workshops and cohorts, individual advising, as well as American spaces in the likes of Bloemfontein, Pretoria, Johannesburg, West Nario, KZN, there's one as well. So these are other places where students can go to get information on studying in the United States. The Opportunity Funds program is conducted online because it is a national program. So in order to get buy-in and participation from the entire group, it's important to have that access. And luckily it's become more accessible due to the COVID pandemic, needing to have what you would say the ability to interact with students on a virtual basis, to not have that in-person interaction. So the Opportunity Fund program has now become a lot more robust in terms of that. We also have 10 global youth advisors around the country in various cities, or have responsibilities for one of or multiple of the 9 provinces. For instance, like myself, I'm based in the Eastern Cape, so I'm also involved with the Global Youth Advisors Partnership. So within that network, we have individuals who can offer advice on Education USA and have been briefed on the Opportunity Funds program in the likes of the Free State, Limpopo, various other parts of KZN, the Western Cape, Eastern Cape, and the Northern Cape, as well as the Northwest. So each of the 9 provinces, including the Mpumalanga too. Okay. Any information in regards to Global Youth Advisors, please, I'll provide my contact information at the end of this, and you're welcome to reach out to me. But if you wanted to remember a website that you could reach out to see who would be involved, you could always go to globalyouth.co.za. And then for anything related from the embassy side, you could go to za.usembassy.gov. But again, I'll repeat all this contact information at the end. Some of the services that Education USA offers, we offer quite a number of introductory group sessions. So whether that be at the individual Education USA centers, or it's done as outreach to either American Space libraries or local libraries within the country, or schools. So doing school information and library presentations as well. That's quite a common thing in terms of outreach for Education USA advisors. We participate in career and college fairs where possible. And then diving away from the introductory sessions, we dive in deeper with either cohort advising, depending on the Education USA advisor, specifically on how to finance a US education and what goes into a college application, preparing for potential standardized tests, once you're accepted under, visa workshops and pre-departure as well. But again, the main purpose of our, excuse me, I'm getting a bit of a tickle in my throat. The main purpose of tonight's presentation is to chat about Education USA Opportunity Funds program. So what is the Education USA Opportunity Funds program? So it's funds by the US Department of State that, provided by them, and its purpose is to assist highly qualified students from very limited financial means with the cost of applying and getting to US universities. One thing I think is important to understand, that it doesn't grant university acceptance or funding or even the visa, but the purpose is that the students applying to the Opportunity Funds program are expected to receive full scholarships and funding for tuition and living expenses from other sources. And the primary goal is from US institutions themselves. I did want to just kind of highlight where some of our Opportunity Funds program alumni have got it into. And you can see there's quite a varied amount of universities that there are. There are close to 4,000 institutions in the United States at a tertiary level. So the choice is abundant. And I think as anybody around the world, even in the US itself, but internationally, we get caught up on some big name institutions. But our big thing as Education USA is to work with an individual student to find the best fit for them possible. So to make sure that you are working with the student to meet of course, their academic goals and needs, but their personal needs as well as their financial needs. So making sure that they're applying to an institution that they can afford, or they can get funding from, and they qualify for that funding. So just like you would not fit your foot into a shoe that would be too big or too small for themselves, it's important that the student finds a university, a program that is going to be the best for them and is going to help them achieve what they need to in terms of their future goals. So just a little bit on this list. The bolded ones are where we've had multiple acceptances in the past to these universities. The italicized ones are our students that we were working with over 2021 have gotten into these institutions at either a bachelor's, master's, or a PhD level. Okay. So what does the Opportunity Funds program essentially, do? So OFP works closely with students. So it's not that we only just fund them applying and getting into and getting to the institutions. We do quite a rigorous cohort advising, college counseling, if you want to call it, with them. So they attend regular meetings, generally virtually, as I noted before. So meetings and seminars to assist them through the application process to secure the admission and scholarships to attend the colleges, universities, and programs in the United States. So our main aim is to make sure that they are submitting the best applications possible to the universities in the United States and allowing them to have that best chance of admission and financial aid. So students work quite closely also, not just in the group setting, but they would work individually with me and potentially some other advisors in terms of individual advising. So what is their individual action plan when it comes to researching and applying to US institutions? So the Opportunity Funds program finances the following costs for selected students, and this would be the application fees and all associated costs involved with submitting an application. So that could be testing, send-us tests, evaluations of degrees, certifications of previous educational credentials. Maybe it's a financial aid application, local travel to the tests and or visa appointments. And then kind of this, that's what we would term phase one, so applying. And then phase two would be traveling or getting to the institution. So the students have been accepted to a US institution, they have the financial aid they need to attend, but often the universities allow them to have financial aid in terms of tuition, room and board, but they don't cover the visa cost and the flight over. And what we also provide to the students is a settling in allowance to either get themselves set up, whether it be getting a laptop, a warm winter jacket, various different aspects of getting themselves set up in the United States. So taking a look at it a little bit more, it's broken up, as I said, into phase one and phase two. What we cannot fund from Opportunity Funds is tuition, room and board, subsequent annual flights, because it's the upfront cost of applying and getting to, it's not continuous. Cannot help with dependents, and top-up fees and deposits aren't included in that amount. But that is definitely something that we can speak about and answer questions on going forward. So how do we find the candidates? So in South Africa, applications for Opportunity Fund program. So Opportunity Fund program is run in multiple countries on the continent, here in sub-Saharan Africa, but it's also in multiple other countries around the world. But here in South Africa, we collect applications on an annual basis. And this year it's between the 1st of March and the 15th of April. So we call for OFP applications and we send them out to institutions, organizations, schools. We post on social media, but there's been a press release at the US mission, basically looking and asking for nominations as well. So asking students to apply directly, but also asking educators or organizations to pass on to students or nominate students who they feel would be good candidates or eligible for such a program. We do outreach to schools, messaging to educators, and as I said, utilize social and traditional media outlets. So understanding the criteria for selection for undergraduate studies. So these would be students that would be looking to pursue a bachelor level degree. Ideally, students need to have an A average or above 80% for their 7+ subjects that they are taking. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have an 80% in each class, but the premise is that their overall average for those 7 courses would be an A average. Of course, that's context kind of comes into play, and that is why we don't just look at the marks, we look at the overall student in terms of what is their demonstrated leadership, not only within a school setting, but a community, maybe even a responsibility piece of them at home. Do they have family responsibilities that take up their time, that they have to adhere, have to take care of? So it becomes quite important to kind of, and the questions within the application make sure to really understand the individual student and the context that they come from, as to make sure that we are getting the best sense of a student and how they shine in their individual settings. For bachelor level studies, they do need to be a current matric student, so a 2022 matriculant, potential matriculant, or they must be on a gap year, so a 2021 matriculant. So as I said before, demonstrated leadership and involvement in extracurricular activities in various forms that can kind of come across, and they need to come from have a financial need, so have an economic advantage where it would be a financial burden to the family to be able to afford an application fee or a standardized test fee, or even if the student was capable of getting a full scholarship, the cost of a visa or a flight would just be astronomical to them. With regards to graduate students, so from a South African point of view, what a graduate student in the US is what we would term here in South Africa postgrad. So these would be students who would be looking to pursue a master's or a PhD level degree in the United States. So they need to be achieving a first class or above a 75% in a university setting. And they need to have, will have needed to graduate by March of 2023 in order to participate in this intake. Ideally, if they want to do a master's degree, they would need to have a 4-year degree, because all degrees in the United States are 4 years. So it's kind of a reciprocal equivalence that they need to have, hence why postgrad or graduate seeking students would need to have more degree evaluations than, say, a high school student would. They need to have demonstrated and relevant research, teaching, and or work experience in those fields. And they need to show, again, a financial need or an economic disadvantage. Applicants are welcome from all South African, applications should actually read, are welcome from all South African citizens and permanent residents. However, students must have access to internet on a monthly basis during the program for full participation. So whether that be, for the school computer or a library or cafe of some kind, students do need to have access. I've had students, completely utilize their mobile phones as well. So WhatsApp has been phenomenal in terms of virtual advising too. Participants will work with education advisors from April 2022 to August 2023, just before they depart, to secure places for them to begin in August of 2023. I know one of the biggest questions is why August? So the academic year in the United States runs differently from South African perspective. So students would be looking to the new academic year for most students would be only in the August or September of next year, as applications tend to be due at the end of 2022 for them to start in the August of 2023. So us starting the process now allows us to work with students to prepare competitive applications and secure funding. So how are Opportunity Fund candidates selected? So students are selected based on careful review of their applications by a committee consisting of a Protea Owl Foundation, which I am the founder of and involved with, the Regional Educational Advising Coordinator for EducationUSA. So this is the person who is responsible for all the EducationUSA advisors regionally. So in our case, it would be the REAC, as we shorten to all these acronyms, for Southern Africa. We utilize Opportunity Fund Program alumni to read through applications, and then of course, being the biggest funder and stakeholder within it is the staff of the Public Affairs section at the US Consulate Generals and the Embassy here in South Africa. The EducationUSA OFP committee reviews all applications, and candidates are assessed on the following criteria. So it's not just one thing that makes a student get in. It's a combination of these factors. So, you know, strong academic record, robust participation in extracurricular activities, work experience for postgrads, or just involvement. It could be research, tutoring, so on and so forth. Involvement in a leadership role, and that could take various forms, from sports fields to clubs to debating to public speaking, you know, Golden Key societies, youth, church, even just family responsibilities, so child-headed homes and the like. Excellent community service participation can be massively important, and then of course financial need. So high achieving students from low income backgrounds. Requirements for the application. So they need to complete an application form, and that is available on all our social media pages, as well as the US Embassy website. So if you were to go to za.usembassy.gov, you could go to the tab that says Education and Culture and go over to Educational Advising. And on the sidebar, you would find all the information in regards to the Opportunity Fund program, with an overview and a link to the application to be filled out. And I'll show you what the screen should look like, so that we can kind of help you get familiar with what is there. Academic results that would be required to upload into the system. So undergraduate applicants would need to attach a copy of their matric results if they are 2021 matriculants, and or you know, their reports from grades 9 to 11. And people often ask, well, why so many years? So the US universities will be looking at a profile of a student over the course of their high school years. So in the US, high school traditionally tends to be grades 9 through 12. So they tend to look at those 4 years and see how a student progresses over a period of 4 years. Do their grades go up? What is the pattern? Is there explanation for maybe why marks went down in grade 10? So it's not based solely on 6 weeks in their final school year. So they look at, as I said, a long period profile of time. So definitely final reports for grades 9 through 11 would be required for an undergraduate applicant. And then if they have matric results available, that could be supplied too. Graduate applicants, so master's and PhD prospective students, would need to attach a copy of their final year results if they do have them, and degree results if available, and send a copy of their academic record or their transcripts, have that uploaded into the system as well. If they will not be finishing their degrees until end of 2022 or early 2023, their academic record needs to kind of state that in the upload, that they are on track in order to graduate or complete their degrees before March of 2023. There will be a section within the application, and I'll go through the sections of the application in a coming slide, but letters of recommendation, or what I would say, at least the contact information for someone for the committee to reach out to kind of get a sense of what others think of the potential of success for an individual. So for undergraduate applicants, we would request, the information, with the point that the students speak to who they want as a recommender beforehand. So request a teacher or a school principal to complete a letter of recommendation form attesting to the character and skills of the student. So it's not just, yes, they go to the school and they've been here and you've known them this many years. It's a lot more involved, and anecdotal evidence as to character traits that they possess and their potential for success, future success. Prospective graduate applicants need to provide details of a lecturer, professor, or HOD that we could potentially reach out to find out more about the student. Within the application form, essays are highlighted. So students need to write 2 essays, and they get to choose from 4 prompts under Group A and from 4 prompts under Group B to write from, and they have to be between 250 and 500 words. And these essay topics will be on the application form online and can be listed there. But generally, it talks about identity challenges that one has faced. So trying to get an idea of the non-quantitative parts of an application that tend to be very important for US institutions. Okay. The application itself, as I said, is online. It is desktop and mobile friendly. The link is there, but as I said before, I'm happy to share that with you in various formats. If you need me to email it to you or direct message it to you, you're welcome to reach out, and I'll share my email with you shortly. Or alternatively, you can find it on the US Embassy website. The application is composed of, it should actually be 7 sections. The signature piece we haven't highlighted in the bullet point, but personal information tends to make up the first section. So this tends to go through name, contact information, location, birth dates, and the like. Supporting documentation, so this would be reports, academic records, supplementary certificates that one may want to share, ID photo, a CV. So supporting documentation section would ask for that to be uploaded there. If there are issues with upload, people are more than welcome, should I say, to email supporting documentation to me as an email rather than an upload. Family information. So we talk about family, trying to get an understanding of students' context, how fees are paid for, for their various levels of education. Trying to get an understanding of that financial need component of the criteria. Academic information, of course, kind of fulfilling that academic side, as well as the extracurricular side, so understanding which school where there are multiple schools, what subjects were taken, what activities or events that were done outside of school, in school, and then, as we spoke about previously, the essay section and short answer questions. So kind of trying to get an understanding of what you want to study and why you want to study it, or why a student would want to, becomes quite important. The great thing about the online application is one can begin it and come back to it at a later stage, especially if your browser saves the information that you were working on. So unlike Google Form, you don't have to sit in one sitting and have to complete it. So if you need to get documentation together before you upload, one is able to do that. The questions that are asked for a reason, in terms of being able to best determine how the committee can evaluate and help a student. So it's very important for a student to answer the questions as thoroughly as possible. I've seen in years applications immediately get rejected because there's just a lot of not applicable written in, rather than even just putting a line or two, because often it will speak about context. I'll give an example. There is a question, it's quite a generic question, that says, is there any information you feel that you need, that would like the committee to know in regards to your family, your academic situation? And more often than not, that question doesn't get answered or gets a non-applicable. And I think it gives the committee a very good understanding of context of an individual student. So it is a required question, but a lot of people try to circumvent it by putting not applicable. So as thoroughly as one can answer the questions, it helps us understand them all. Okay. Before I go over to questions, I did just want to stop sharing for a second and move over to the online form. I know this recording is being shared onto our Facebook page, but I really, just before we go on to pages, wanted to take the time to say thank you to those who have joined us live on the Zoom channel. So just to go to the page, so the application form is listed online, and when you click on the link, you'll be taken here immediately, and the form kind of does an overview of what would be required of a student and why, what is the program, why it is there, and understanding some of the deadlines and the criteria as we've gone through tonight. So just a little bit of an overview for the people who are applying. So let me just share my screen with you so you can actually see what I am seeing. Go. Okay. So I just want to exit out of that. So hopefully you can all see that. So as I said, you click on the link and it kind of takes you through an overview and understanding what the program entails and what kind of the ethos of the program is and the criteria that is needed. And then it goes further through requirements, deadlines, and then what you can, so this is kind of an edit mode, but it's the only way I can do it without having to fill out a full application. But personal information, information about citizenship, contact information, proposed level of study, supporting documentation. So depending on how a student answers a question, not everybody will get these same questions. So if they say that they want to do a bachelor's, then anything that is university or master's, PhD specific will fall away and will not need to be answered by that student. And then likewise, if someone puts that they would want to do a master's or a PhD, then all the high school related questions would fall away as well. So yeah, students would need to upload the various pieces that are noted here, so whether that be school reports or academic credentials, IDs, CVs, or supplementary certificates. Family information, so understanding, family dynamics, and, school fees, if applicable, university fees, bursaries that may have been received, who they live with, how many other dependents there are in a family for one to, you know, for a family to take care of, ability to access computers and whatnot, so we understand how we can best help a student if we need to. Academic information, so institution and addresses and contact information for the institution. Yeah, moving through to kind of what subjects they're taking, what course they would be doing if it's a master's or a PhD, clubs, activities, community service that one has been involved with, you know, explaining why one would be meaningful to you. Of course, we have students that have multiple talents that are not just on paper, so sometimes it's more on the art side, so having an opportunity to provide evidence of that is important as well, and listed their leadership positions and the like. Essays and short answers, so some short answers tend to be like why somebody wants to study a certain area, kind of being involved with OFP, just it's getting to know a student and their context better, which really does help the committee in their decisions, because to try and compare a student, let's say, who's on scholarship to a private school versus a student who might be at a school in a township, their access to resources are different, but is that individual student taking complete advantage of every opportunity that is given to them, becomes quite important. So us asking questions helps us understand the context of a student. So we understand that if they have an 81% in their school or a 79% in their school, let's say, that's the best grade that a student's going to get at that school, in terms of grade averages. It becomes important, again, to understand context. Essay questions. So I said, as before, you would have to choose one of 4. So again, some questions here, talking about a time you were challenged in a belief, what prompted you to act, would you make the same decision again? So a lot of introspective thought process, but it helps us understand the critical thinking and the kind of the personality of a student and their drive and potential that is there. B tends to be a little bit more involved in terms of thought-provoking rather than talking about anecdotal information. So it's a bit more on the critical thinking side. And then recommender information. So giving us the names and contact information of the people who we could reach out to get a recommendation or a reference letter about the student. And then submission and signature. That comes through to us in a very clean format. Generally, students will get on submission, a confirmation of submission with a little bit more information as to kind of next steps. And then we kind of take it from there in terms of working and contacting students further. The nice thing about the system as well, it allows us to see who may have started applications, but for whatever reason haven't submitted them. So if there's a question that they tend to be stuck on, it allows us to reach out to a student and say, I've noticed you've made an application, you're almost to the end, but you seem to be having a little bit of an issue, maybe uploading a certain document or putting the recommendation information in. Can we do anything to help you? So it allows us to reach out to individuals who may be stuck on the application process and be able to assist them, where in the past we weren't able to do that with the systems we had in place. Okay, back to the presentation. Sorry. I'm just going to go back down to here. But essentially, that is it from us this evening. I know it's actually been quite a long presentation, being 45 minutes, but I did just want to allow any time for questions that there may be. But I do know that it's quite a lot to digest and take in, and that if there was anything that you needed or wanted to ask at a later stage, you're more than welcome to send me an email at cpowell@educationusa.org, and I'd be more than happy to speak with you or answer any questions that you have. So yes, so I'm going to open it up to questions that there might be out there. So please feel free to, in the chat box, send any questions that you may have. If you would like me to unmute you to speak, I'd be more than happy to do that. But just let me know through the chat box if you would like to ask questions. You can also raise your hand. But thank you for listening to quite a long presentation this evening, and I'm really looking forward to receiving applications from amazing students across the country for this intake. Thank you. Our guests that have, oh, thank you. So if you are still a really good student, I think it's important that, so I think if you heard me speaking about context and understanding context, and being able to look at a student and understand, are they performing at the top in the environment that they're exposed to, if that makes sense. So I don't want to ever tell a student not to apply, because you also don't know what the pool would be like for that year that one puts an application in. So do not be afraid to submit an application, and maybe the committee absolutely loves you and would want to speak to you more and understand your context a bit more. So yeah, don't be afraid. I think I was having this conversation today with someone. I think often what we do is that we don't, South Africans are very humble, in my personal opinion. And I've seen this with applications, and had to kind of, when we were writing essays and talking and submitting them to US institutions, we don't realize that some of the challenges and the context of which we come from are absolutely amazing, because I think we're quite humble. And I think it's important to speak about all aspects of your life, because we all wear lots of hats, right? And I think for this program, and definitely for US institutions, it's not just about the bookworms. It's not just about academics. Academics, don't forget me wrong, are massively important. But there's other aspects to individuals that will make them change makers in the future. So what I'm saying is, don't sell yourself short. So put an application in. Let's see what you're about. I know people are also quite hungry for other opportunities, and I think what's important is you are looking at potentially some other programs that the US mission holds. I would highly encourage you to go to that website I spoke about, so za.usembassy.gov, and then go to the Education and Culture tab. and go have a look at our educational exchange programs, because there is something, there's quite a number of programs there, including our Community College Initiative program that looks to give an academic year experience to students. So junior colleges in the US. So generally, students don't have to be as high academically performing, but this opportunity allows them to explore more opportunities in potentially their fields of study. So I would highly encourage you to have a look at some of the other programs that the US Department of State offers. And then also with Global Youth Advisors, some of the exchanges that we have for individuals is quite important. So I would highly encourage you to go check out globalyouth.co.za, see if there's an advisor close to you that you could reach out to and speak to. And if for whatever reason you're having a hard time getting hold of that individual advisor, let me know. I think on our Global Youth site specifically, I don't necessarily know if emails are listed there just yet, but I can help you get in touch with who you need to get in touch with. So yeah, yeah, so thank you for your time this evening. Yeah, we're quite strict in terms of 2021 and 2022 matriculants, just in terms of what the US institutions would be looking for the Opportunity Fund program. Not to say that there, as I said before, there's other programs that you could potentially look at. Yeah, but as I said, go have a look, or just reach out to me directly if you have any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Yes, any other questions for Ali this evening? I don't think we have. I've got a few direct messages, which I will get to a little bit later, and I'll answer them as the days go. But any other questions you have, please feel free to send through to me. Thank you so much for your time. I've really appreciated the patience in going through all of this, and as I said before, I'm really excited to read applications that would come through from US students, or that educators put forward to the students that are change makers in their areas that they nominate. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And again, thank you for your time this evening, and don't hesitate to reach out with any questions that you may have about this program and other global youth and US State Department programs that you may have. Okay. Thank you. Have a great night. Bye-bye. FYI, just for email address, I will take that down. Cool. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.